Okay, so welcome back. Here we are in the last session. Oop. The last part I want to talk about a bit is trust and communities, and maybe a bit about fair digital objects, but I'll focus on the parts that are interesting to you. Well, let me jump in here. That there is the Nanopub registry. That is basically the central, not central, it's kind of the central software that runs decentrally that allows you to publish and retrieve nano publications. So if you go to this link here, it doesn't, it does. You will find a couple of links. You see there exist several places where this exists. So I'm just clicking on one of these. And you see this is not something a user should look at. It's more like a technical interface or an API. And as you see, it has a long list of 61,000 nano publications. It has a number of agents. So everybody who has published nano publications show up here with ORCID, or sometimes it's also some other kind of identifier. And they have all at least one account, basically meaning that they have one private pub key pair that is known to the server only by pub key. So some of them have more than one because they've used nano applications from several servers or also local installations. And here you see this is kind of sorted by or arranged by pub key. So in general, what the server does is, in the simplest way of looking at it, it just holds a simple key value store where the key is an application identifier that includes a hash on the content. So just to be sure it's really the thing we're looking for. And then as a small extension to that, it keeps the structures to arrange them first by pub key. So that, for example, as a client wanting to be up to date about a particular pub key, I can just look at what has, and pub keys here basically corresponding to accounts. If I just want to know, has this pub key published anything new? I can have a look here. From this, we only know, well, so these are now, yeah, first it's sorted by pub key, and second it's sorted by type. So it has just two different types that this user has published. And if you go to this kind of special $1, it shows everything. So in fact, this user, this pub key has just published a single nanopub, and that's a person who has introduced themselves with an introduction, and that's it. So yeah, this is not kind of looking a bit more complicated, but the gist is, yeah, as I said, it's storing it as key value pairs. Plus, you can it has the structures to request stuff. Also, let's say the most recent applications per pub key and or per type, and as such, it serves as kind of the central place where applications go in, and then all the other tools and services are built around it. So because of new participants, just a quick recap on that. If you go to nanopub.net, there's all the information about from the nano publication community on the documentation. I'll only quickly show this one again. So this is the technical architecture, which shows the Nanopub registry is in the middle, and it serves its application to the Nanopub query over here, which loads them all into triple stores with the same idea that you have separate triple stores per type and per pub key, so you can very specifically query if you like. And then tools like Nanodash, but also third-party system can build upon this. So if you want to publish a new nanopub, you push it to the nanopub registry. If you want to get the content of one particular nanopub, you retrieve it. If you want to do more sophisticated queries, like do Sparkle, you go via the nanopub query. And all the tools around can do the same, and there's a number of libraries that support that. So that's just a quick recap from the previous sessions. And now, if we go back to the slides, yeah, so that's in a nutshell, the Nanopub registry is at the core of this peer-to-peer open ecosystem where anyone can publish and consume these nano publications without the need for a central authority. And the unit that is being shared are all nano publications that are digitally signed and have these hash identifiers. So, and that it's also a little bit like a blockchain, just without this inflexible and expensive element of the chain in it, but with the kind of guarantees on the reliability and the trust you can have. So speaking of trust, what the registry does, and this is partly still work in progress, but it starts from a knowledge setting or nanopublication setting that is a nanopublication that tells us who we can trust initially. So it has a few direct links to Nanopub services, plus some indirectly with like longer lists of trusted services and agents. And it specifies two things, at least: a trust range algorithm, basically telling us, starting from these initial things we're supposed to trust, how do I get more things I can trust, basically people and services, and how do I update the setting itself? Is there a way to update the setting? Who is allowed to update the setting? And well, these bootstrap services are needed because initially I have just this one nanopublication. This can be kind of baked in or hard-coded into application. And then through these bootstrap services, I can get these lists that are also nanopublications, and thereby kind of bootstrap my way through this network. So then I know all the things, all the services and all the agents with introductions that we've just seen, right? People introducing themselves in the pub key. So I know these I'm supposed to be able to trust because that's the setting I started from. But importantly, the setting is not part of the whole network in a way. It's just applications can use one setting or they can kind of change to another one. Users in the future can be given the option to replace the setting and say, okay, I don't trust these people anymore who create the setting. I make my own, I trust these people, and I use this trust algorithm. So I'm going to be seeing a different subset of nanopublications, but it's all defined in a precise way and open way also. It's a bit like, yes, there is filter bubbles, but everybody can make their own, but it's also perfectly clear who uses what filter bubble, and you can always change it out to something else. And the trust range algorithm is actually the most important part here. It basically says, once you trust these people, who else do you trust? And the most important element there is the approval of user introductions. So assuming this thing is an nanopublication, so that's just kind of the short ID of an nanopublication. And now in this case, Barbara approves of this introduction. So in here, and encoded in the hash as well, is that a person saying, this is me, these are my pub keys. And now Barbara approves it. So if I have Barbara in my list of initially approved, here would be initially approved agents. And now my trust range algorithm says, okay, look at everybody who's approved, see who they approved, approve them too. So that's kind of the simplest transitive rule. So then from that, I have now somebody else I approve and trust, and I can then check whether that person approves more people, and then I get a trust range, and I then know which people with ORCID, for example, and with which pub keys I can trust, and from there I can then make queries and get back results that have them some stronger reason to trust and figure out if something is wrong. Overall, this gives us then a trust network of this. This is an actual one from the registry that it calculated, but it's like from half a year ago, so it's a bit outdated and it's not interactive. So, but that's what it's currently doing. So each dot here is actually a identity pub key pair. So it's more or less pub keys, but also with identifiers. So a pub key should normally just belong to one identifier. So you have, I think, like 3 accounts on 3 different Nandash instances. So your 3 dots here. And the arrows say that with that pub key, some other pub key and identity was approved.
So the ones that look kind of in the center are ones that have approved many of them.
Yes, in this case, these are all, some of them have also received several, but most of them are just the ones that have approved many. So I think at least 2 of these, or maybe even 3 of the kind of hubs here are actually my different my different pub keys that I have that, yeah, I've used different ones. So now it looks a bit more kind of distributed than what it actually is. So yes, these are the ones that have approved many. Yes.
You know, Nanopub should have the 3 versions of you. It's just you.
Yes. Very good. How can we see the multiple pub keys that they're all me? Well, first, all these pub keys are assigned to or come together with an identifier, like an ORCID. So you can already see it's the same ORCID. And then typically and I can show you that, they're also published in the same Nanopub. So they kind of come as one package. So for example, if you go here, to my account, you can go here, see your profile details. Now, here see all the introductions that exist about me. Some of them are approved. So this is the one that this site actually published here. And in this case, you see, if I expand it, you see I declared here 4 pub keys. It's all assigned to the same ORCID, namely me. And well, in my case, I'm at one of the root kind of trusted agents. But otherwise, you would know that all these pub keys belong to the same person because there's such a introduction nanopub that has been approved by people that are approved. So thereby it is approved. And part of the trust range algorithm is then also checking whether there are any inconsistencies or conflicts. So if, let's say, the same pub key is declared by several people, then this needs to be resolved. So those who are kind of stronger connected in the pub key typically should take precedence. And then that possibly in the future it could generate some sort of warning that something is maybe contested, or if it's kind of a clear case that some outsider node is trying to kind of impersonate some node or some identity that's well established, then it can just be kind of by default be resolved. And then I can say a bit more about kind of the future, what exists only a bit in a rudimentary fashion, but we'll be seeing much more, is there is some sort of communities, or it's also related to what we have now as projects, and there have been the concept of groups. It's not yet perfectly clear what kind of terminology we're going to be using there. But the idea being that this trust network we can now also use to define subsets thereof, and declare this is a community, and it has maybe these core members, and they decide who else is part of the community. And then based on that, once we know who is a community, and it's kind of a fluid thing, right? All the members, or with respect, there can be more complex rules that maybe there need to be 2 members of the community approving somebody else for that person to be in the community too. But it's something that, again, doesn't need kind of a central authority to rule. And once you have communities, we can then make community-specific actions as well. So we can say, well, we have kind of community pages where you see all the people in the community, where you can have community-specific templates available, where you can also, for outsiders, say, okay, show me a list or kind of showing the results of this query, but only from approved members of this community, right? I want to have like a biodiversity-related query. I want to get results, but only from people who are actually approved by the biodiversity community. It doesn't mean that the result will be perfect or all the things will be correct, but it does give you some good level of trust that they're only accepted things that are to some extent accepted by the community. And yeah, you see on our page for this particular workshop they've just shown before, some kind of starting point for that. So this is here now project, which is probably something we want to have as a concept that is kind of one level down with respect to community, that kind of, people can come together and form projects, and people are also members of larger communities, and project is probably something more restricted, both in terms of who is participating, but also in terms of time. But anyway, it gives you already a glimpse of what these people could have. They could have a number of, well, kind of shared people, a number of shared templates, just ways to add new data, and then some shared views that they could kind of collectively look at and keep track of. And as such, I think this is a thing that you raised as a question before, like what are the applications? You can like use it to extract content from papers and publish them like that, and that's one use case. But you can basically use it for anything. So what we've just used here is we have used it for allowing people to track or announce their participation in events, which is something that's very common in science, but not actually a scientific result or anything. You can use it for this kind of meta level. It can be, as you have seen here, also kind of a Twitter replacement that is just, I would say, better in so many ways. Namely, it's semantic, it's decentralized, it has provenance, yes.
No racism.
Sorry, second.
No racism.
No racism. What's that?
No racism.
Oh, no racism.
No
Okay, yeah,
racism.
exactly. Yeah, I hope so. I hope this is not going to be abused. Well, yeah. No, we just ignore you because they filter out. Yes, and but you can also well, one place that can maybe show here, if you go to places, we have a number of oh yeah, I can show this, of course. We have fair implementation profiles. So that is Barbara, who is the owner here. Want to say something more about this, or should just I know most about it, yeah.
But actually, what we do here is collect resources that enable the verification of the metadata. A piece a list of these resources, and what we have here are templates that we use to get persistent identifiers for these resources and metadata. So we are collecting here not claims, but we are describing existing sources, metadata. So you can click on one of these, I don't know, defining a registry here.
Defining a registry, yes.
See, it's like a form that you can fill out to describe a registry.
But this one is the FIP.
Now, this is a resource used in a FIP. A FIP is a list of enabling resources. One of them is, for example, registries for your data, metadata. And
it's a template to create
it's a template to create a metadata about a resource used. Yeah. So this is how you can do it, but we are using also another editor for doing this. So that's the wizard that can data search a wizard, which is easier for users that are not used to RDF statements, because this is also form. It's also not difficult to use, but it's more a guided way. You get questions and you answer them by seeing Nanopub applications implemented.
But the per implementation profiles, they are Nanopub.
There are also Nanopub applications, but in this case, it's an index of Nanopub applications. It's an index of declarations by a community to use benefits.
We can look at one like
This is just describing one registry, right? So a specific registry. But if you want to see a FIP, it's best to go either find a connect or a FIP wizard.
There's one that came from the FIP visit, and is it part of? No, it doesn't seem to be part of any.
But I can show. Quickly.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna try move them. Sorry. Pip. Yeah, wizard. So we are using the data stewardship wizard because that's a nice tool for creating actually data management plans, but we use that also for anything else, like a questionnaire. So and
Yeah. Data management, also for management as well.
yeah, so just to show you here the overview, very quickly. Yeah, so a data stewardship wizard has always a knowledge model and like a actually like an ontology. You can use an ontology to create the structure of a project. So you have a template for a project, and the output can be a document, could be a Word document, a PDF, whatever, but also nano publications. And that's what we did here. So we have implemented here as a project. And this is a test project. So these are just questions, and you can fill these questions with answers using nano publications, because in the drop-down, you can then find existing nano publications about the specific question. The question here is which globally unique persistent identifier service are you using for your metadata records? And here you see possible answers. And all these answers are nano publications. And you see here that the UI is mentioned here. And you can click on this, and this is the link to the metadata of the DOI. And then you come, yeah, you see here that's a nano publication, right? But if you really want to see the FIP itself, is only possible if you have created or filled out the whole questionnaire. In this case, it's 28 questions. You can create a document. And here you have the possibility to use a nano publication template. And then you would be able to fill this out as a nanopub. Yeah. But this is now empty. I just show you one example, like Elter. Here we have created nano publications, and they look like this. This is a nano publication saying I am a FIP, but I have a declaration index. And when you click on this, you see that it has a long list of declarations. And each of that has a nano publication saying that for a specific question, it is using a specific resource. And these are, this is declared by a community, and it says that it uses DOI, yeah, in this case. It's also a possibility how you can use nano publications, right? Another possibility is that you create a term or a class. So what you would do in our ontology, you can create classes and put them together. Here you would do it at put this information about a class in one nano publication. And then you can create instances of these. But just to show one possible application, and what is very nice is that we have the Sparkle queries that are used to then expose this information that we did in the FIP here. We can search for specific resources, or we can also have a dashboard where we can see this. And you can reuse this information, saying how many communities are asking how many communities are using this resource. So you can do a lot on top of this RDF application as a nano publication. Yeah.
Thank you. That's Victoria.
Yeah. This just to give a brief overview. Yeah. what is.
So, let me go through some more things. Well, for the registry and in general, there's a number of things that are not yet there, but coming up soon. So the registry already, as I said, kind of organizes all Nanopub publications by type and pub keys. And this can be the basis for defining communities. So this is still kind of, yeah, it's there in the design and part in the implementation, but not yet properly in the sense that you could restrict a particular registry instance and saying I'm only interested in these types. So then my registry only stores these and nothing else. So in the future, this will be crucial for scalability. So that if you want to publish millions of applications, that's fine, but probably, yeah, you're going to have to set up or buy your own instances so that yeah, and configure it such that it stores all of them, and other registries, they probably don't want to bother with your million of applications they're not interested in. So in that sense, it should then always be a case where, let's say, any NAN application is available at different places. That's for redundancy and reliability, but also that that probably no single registry has everything, because that's just not going to work out at some point. Also, what's kind of calculated at the moment is quotas for users. So at the moment, we already have this trust system implemented, or this trust network in the registry in the first version. So that already kind of lays the basis for also preventing that any user that kind of gets hacked or just unintentionally publishes, let's say, lots of bogus nano publications and thereby floods the system, that that we prevent this from with having quotas that the users can use. That can also then be configured on the registry. You could, for example, say there's these and these quotas, except for users of these communities, they have higher quotas because they are basically paying or that's the one to whom these registries are dedicated to, so they are supposed to have higher quotas, for example. And together with Piotr, who is also not here right now, but co-organizing the workshop, we are in the process of setting up a test environment so we can simulate this whole thing with the registries and the queries in a network and see how scalable is it at the moment and what are the bottlenecks. So then hopefully in the future you have a better kind of some concrete numbers on how scalable it is and what we need to do to make it more scalable. So in the longer term future, the idea is that there can be billions of nano publications in this network in a reliable and scalable and performant way. Yeah, then I have another topic that I just added a few slides. It doesn't necessarily fit into this particular topic, but I just want to say it briefly. You might have heard of fair digital objects. Basically, yeah, making digital objects fair. And applications can be seen as a way to implement that. So in a nutshell, fair digital object has a clear persistent identifier. That's this yellow box. And it needs to point to two things. First, it needs to be, yeah, it points to the metadata where it can just find out what is it. So who created it, what is the license, and some other type of metadata. But then it also needs to point to the actual content. And the idea is, or the principle is that the metadata is always small comparatively. So that's a thing that the tool should also be able to just process and then figure out what to do with it, whereas the content could be potentially huge. It could be like multi-terabyte file. And in this case, it's particularly important to be able to read the metadata, because otherwise the only way to figure out something is to read a multi-terabyte thing, which, yeah, you can't really do. You can't really provide any useful interactions on that then. And yeah, with HTTP, for example, but that's not the only option here, you can then set it up in a way that depending on the request, depending on what you want, you get the metadata. or you get the content. And the metadata, on one hand, is small, but also kind of uniform in terms of format and in terms of content. Whereas the content itself, it can be anything, right? And the metadata tells you more what the content is. And applications can be used as such. They can serve as these metadata records. And thereby, the application ID or an ID minted in an application can then serve as the FTO ID. With some examples, it's all preliminary and still subject to change. But this is what an example looks like. This is kind of an early example. We have now some more some more recent ones. But yeah, we have a project where we will be able to report some results from soon. We're basically saying this is the digital object. It has a label. It has a type data set in this case. And in this case, we're saying we have this, we have a concrete materialization, which has the format CSV. Here it is. And we have another one that has the format XL, and here it is. So in this, if you model it like this, and it's not yet clear where that's going to be the definite way to do it, but then we could, for example, have different formats for the same ID, which is something you can also do with just HTTP content negotiation. But this one is like more flexible, and there's more things you can add, more type of metadata it can do. And of course, with applications, they get then loaded into the Nanopub query, and you can start query FTOs globally, basically figure out. This one, yes, but this is also an older one. You see it's from September last year. So I think you've even seen this already. So this is using it, and our new ones is still using it wherever we can. And there's some parts that don't have a correspondence directly. But yes, we're trying to kind of be compatible and build upon everything that's there. But it's not everything is conceptually and technically perfectly compatible. So there will be some sort of trade-off. But we're trying to bring different, kind of a HTTP.
Still distinguish between an information object and the materialization object. Because a thing can be an info object, so informing about another metadata. Well, this is not yet, it's not, no more part of this.
I don't know. I think I never used this part of the FTO framework ontology myself, really. I'm not sure I ever understood it fully, that part. And the part we're now combining it with doesn't have this particular distinction. So yeah, I think this is something that possibly comes in later. Yeah, this distinction we do have, definitely. Yeah, if it's that distinction you're talking about between like something is a materialization of something. So it's kind of yeah.
Data or it's
Uh,
special object or the meta object.
Yes, these distinctions, yeah, of course, they will be. And then the actual thing, the actual digital file can then be anywhere. It could also be an application itself. So certain types of data, yeah, obviously can be represented as an application. So there could be the content itself could be an application as well. But more generally, it can be any kind of file. So you would upload that, for example, to Zenodo or some other repositories or some domain-specific repository. It can also be non-public data that for reasons of privacy or copyright or whatever cannot be made public. And in that case, this whole FTO approach and covering metadata is even more beneficial because then you can actually find out about the thing. You can have some metadata and you have a thing to point to and to find out about, whereas the actual content is not available at all. Yeah, so this is the last slide I had on this. What we have left here is just the individual projects, which we can kind of take offline. Yeah, maybe you can just see whether any further question, anything I should show again that is shown in the morning session. Or we have also somebody on for you. I see you joined online. maybe you'd be welcome to say hi as well. And if you have a question or something to discuss, feel free.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Good to
I'm
see you.
fine. Good to see you. Yes, thanks for the presentation.
Great. Yeah, great to have you here. Well, feel also free to, now that you're here, we can, now that you're participating, feel free also to declare your participation in the tutorial. I think if you were already in when I showed you how to do that, I don't know.
Yeah, yes,
So
I saw it. I haven't done it yet. Thanks.
would be great to have you here too. Do you have any question or any part that you would like me or us to talk about or explain more? Barbara said you had some questions or some things about the templates you'd like to know. So depending on how kind of detailed it is, might be the good situation here, or we can just discuss this bilaterally later. If you have any question for this round, feel free to ask.
I mean, I had a more general question about templates on how do we know they fit or they are valid templates for this for a given nanopublication network.
Whether the kind of the template is well formed, is that your question?
Yes, I mean the well form I can put like where you can have the 3 parts, but how do we know it contains all the needed information for a given endpoint? Or it doesn't matter?
You ask for the are you asking about the query templates?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were about talking about the publishing templates. Yes, so that's a good point. Well, there's a few things I can say. So the part that is if you go to any, I can also go here actually when we're already here at our thing here, we can have a look at for example this query. So if you go here, we see how it was defined. The part that's maybe not so straightforward or you need to know about is this part where you query the admin graph. So here you need to know what's in the admin graph, right? The rest, what we query here is just what you put in your nanopublication assertion. So once you know what your nanopublications contain in terms of triples and know how to write Sparkle, this is basically straightforward. Up here, yeah, when you go to the queries, you get just a tiny bit of help if you browse your way to this point. So basically, I can show how we get there, just as a repetition. So if you go to any query endpoint, the obvious one to look at first is the full one that has everything. So might be a bit slower, but otherwise you can do everything with this one. Now, if you just run this, you get just some statistics about the repo itself. But if you delete this part and instead uncomment this part, you have kind of the basic structure you more normally need. And that tells you, give me all nanopublications with a valid pub key that don't have another nanopub that has the same pub key that invalidates it, and some other things. And then you have kind of a basic structure that can get you started. So that's one part. For here, if you go to Nanopub query, the GitHub repo, let's see if I find it. Here we are. Then there is some documentation about that. So namely here, the admin triple table shows you kind of conceptually or like have formally what triples you find in this admin table. That is the one that I've shown you over here. Right, so this one, MPA graph. So you see here what the MPA prefix is, kind of nanopub admin. And this one contains these triples. So for example, the thing you've seen has valid signature for pub key. The same one with pub key hash, so which is shorter, so it's kind of nice to deal with. Then you have signed by and a number of other things. There's also a network graph that is a separate graph that just shows all the Nanopub to Nanopub relations. So you could kind of show it as a network, for example, and all the dots would be Nanopubs and nothing else. That's sometimes useful. And you see you can do introduces, describes, and embeds. That's different ways of kind of applications pointing to the thing they describe. And yeah, you see all the other things you have, and there might be some more in the future. Including like load checksum. That's kind of the checksum of all the applications that have been loaded up to the point where this particular application has been loaded. So together with load number, this allows you to kind of incrementally check whether there are any applications that you don't know about yet, which is mostly not for querying, but for other tools that want to kind of have an incremental update, for example. Anyway, this gives you a starting point, I hope. Was that your question? How you figure out here what you can even expect?
Yeah, it's one of my questions. Yes. That is nice. I didn't know about this table.
Okay, yes. Well, that was not your fault, but it's just the documentation is a bit still confusing, I guess. But yeah, and then once you figured it out here, you can copy this. You can make placeholders. For example, if let's say here in the assertion, you have something that you want to be a placeholder. Well, to copy these, I don't know how they go with this keyboard. Right, so anything you want to be a placeholder, you would do like this. So let's say you want to have, okay, this should be some subject saying it is something, and here I want the user to be able to enter something. So for example, I want to say this should be type, or I could do type different, or let's say class. And this should be an IRI, not a literal. So that's what we'll be doing. If we do it like this and publish it then as a garlic query over here, just to show, so it's basically the same thing here, but we can go, it also shows up here, defining a garlic query. So you could paste it over here, and then we would create such a, no, where was I? And then we'll be creating this as a query that has one field that can be filled in. Or if you want to make it optional, so something that can be left, oh, sorry, what happened? Left unbound or filled in, then you do with two underscores. That's the garlic syntax, the thing I was referring to, but it didn't show you, but sorry, clicking some. So this is garlic syntax. Yeah, you can find more information here. This is not for me. This is a third-party thing that allows you to find these Sparkle templates and make APIs out of it.
It's almost 10 years old.
Ah, holy. Next year is going to be 10-year anniversary. Yeah, Anne, did this answer your question?
Yes, that is nice. I didn't know this either. Thanks.
Yeah, this is now kind of part of Nanopub query, actually. So if you use these, what I've shown earlier, I'll just quickly go back to what was shown earlier. If you use, where were we? Here, like these URIs of this or URLs of this kind, any kind of Nanopub query instance /API. Oh, sorry, I cannot click. /API /Nanopub ID / kind of suffix of the query. And then it actually internally goes through garlic and then queries it and returns you this thing. Yes. And yes, that's where we're at. Oops. Yeah, I have some things I can say to close, and as I said, we can do as many more individual projects as needed offline, but any other questions or things you'd like me to elaborate on, Anne or anyone?
The sessions is
Yep.
like kind of open sessions that
Yes. Good question. Yeah, so we have these Nanopub sessions or nano sessions, sorry, and there are just monthly calls where anyone can join. So there's like open, you don't need to register anything. You just go to the Zoom channel. You see here, next one is in 17th June, typically at 16 or 4 p.m. European time. And yeah, you just drop in and you can join the call. There's some notes you can check out what happened previously. And if you have something to present, just get in touch with us. It's now Virginia, who is also working for us, who's taking care of that. But you can contact any of us, and we're happy to provide you with a slot there if you have something to present. So that's one thing. And another thing I can show, that's kind of a sneak preview, and it's more kind of an announcement that we're going to be doing that you might be interested in at some point. Yes. Sometimes they are. I don't remember. Maybe it was, but we haven't linked the recording yet because nobody asked for it. Initially, the policy was we don't record to encourage people to come there. And then sometimes we did record because people said they would like to have it recorded. So we'll see how we do it in the future. In general, I'm in favor of recording just as much as possible, but we'll see. And this also for Virginia to decide how to move on with this. Yeah, but you prefer recordings to?
Well,
Yeah.
normally come.
And so one thing we're planning to do, and we're happy to get some, we as Knowledge Pixels, who are working on all these things you've seen, but as I said, we not kind of want to make any of these this kind of closed. It should be all open and community driven. But we at Knowledge Pixels, we will probably launch some sort of incubator soon, where people who have kind of ideas and see a way to possibly get some funds to make this more sustainable, they might want to be in touch with us more closely so we can figure out what to do and we can collaborate and work towards some co-creation. So if this sounds interesting, yeah, you can get in touch with me and or stay tuned on our website. Other than that, yeah, what about you? You had some other things you wanted to know about. Is there anything I can kind of talk a bit more that would help you, or you're fine for now?
I see the minimum that publication.
Yes,
Graphical way.
in a graphical way. That's Vincent. Yeah, you wanna? Yes.
Let's go. Okay.
Yes, that's exactly what Vincent can. He's already shown it earlier, but I think it's good to have it once. It can be split into different parts meaningfully. I mean, we're not very strict about it. It's more like about practicality, right? So is it something that is kind of any benefit if it's something that's two things? Is it something that's great in places, or is it really so tied together to just be? So
The attribution of research can it be attributed to multiple?
yes. Yes. It can be attributed to multiple. At the moment, it has to be signed by one key, and this key has to be assigned to one entity, either tool or user or person. But you can attribute to as many as your platform. You can attribute either the assertion, that would then be typically the provenance. You can say the assertion, the kind of statement in a way, came from these and these people and places, and you can additionally say the nanopublication with all its parts and specifics was created by this tool or that person, etc.
If I have these tutorials, happen. Incorporated.
Yeah.
You can say that, I can say that too. Think,
Yes.
so will we have different kind of publications in thinking, or would be a way to bring them to the news of like just multiple agents that
I think if it's the same thing, but multiple agents in a way kind of accidentally or just coincidentally said the same thing, I think it would be different applications because they would also say that different places, and then you can just figure out, okay, it's the same thing.
they
yeah.
would be created.
And if it's like kind of a group of people kind of collectively saying something, then either they can all be listed and then kind of one person basically publishes it in the name of everyone, or you can define some sort of community or group and have the identifier of that community or group represent that too. So yeah, that's all possible. And this is, for instance, the visual representation.
So yeah, this is the nano publication that you published. Just you exactly.
Okay, that's
So this is you, this organelle. So it's really,
can you make it bigger?
yeah, you can zoom, but but yeah, and yeah, this is, I guess, the Wikidata entity that says you participated to this the Nanopub. So this is the assertion graph. Here it's really simple. You also have the assertion graph that is attributed to your org ID. There is no there is no provenance. I think there's nothing, or maybe there is a bug in my thing, but
There needs to
maybe there's.
typically, if you didn't do anything separate,
I think there is a little bug in my visualizer because yeah, this assertion should be part, but because sub assertion provenance attributed to org ID, because since org ID was already in another graph, I guess how I wrote the thing, because here I need to convert manually, custom RDF to cystoscapes.js. The head keeps together everything together.
it's kind of a fourth graph, which is kind of just an auxiliary one. In the fourth, that it's just says this is an application, it has this assertion, this provenance, this provenance. It's just keeping graphs together.
But
So normally you don't
there is
need to look at it.
indeed in another application, you always have.
You have exactly 4 graphs.
And usually, yeah, it points to each graph. Tuk. But let me check another one. Oh, yes, shoop.
Yes.
Okay, this one from Cheng, as she did DOI, the assertion, she just associated some review to a DOI. The provenance, I guess, is her. Yeah. And then the pub info is something you don't really care about because it's mostly for the computers to validate the signature and everything. What is really important usually is the provenance and the assertion, and the head just holds everything together, points to the right one.
It names the templates that were used to create this application.
Yes.
Do I always need to search?
No. No. Just when you create it through Nanodash, then it records it just as information. You don't also not really need it to understand it, right? So I mean, the assertion stands for itself.
So
Create an application by hand,
yes.
Yes.
but because I'm going to authenticate, then I need to go to a platform.
Yes. So not necessarily. So we had, if you look at the slides in the beginning, yeah, you have
even
different tools, and this one is the JavaScript one.
Yeah, to basically this way you can write it directly the RDF, and you don't need to install weird tools or go in VS Code. It's all in the browser. And all you need to so you have the head. This is trig. It's basically turtle, but with the graph between you see turtle, yeah, with the graph like this. But we also offer with JSON LD, which I think is a bit harder to read. But if you're doing it from JavaScript or Python, I think it's easier to compose as a programmer because you don't need, trig is a bit harder. You need to have a RDF parser and everything. But here, if you know exactly how you want to build it, that can be sometimes easier. You don't need any additional dependency, but this is easier to read for humans.
The only name.
Name?
Name?
No, they all have name. I don't, one second. Oh,
The name graph is the same as graphs in RDF, right? The
Because
name is-
half assertion,
Yeah,
the range of these properties.
Yeah. yes.
yeah. Is a URI that is used, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, the back there they have this social growth, sorry. And the head no more you normally don't see because
And these publication information is really short, it's just
yeah, but that's kind of yeah, normally you have more.
This is the most basic, yeah.
Yeah, then it once you sign it, you have the whole signature stuff there. Anyways, and
Here.
otherwise you will not be able to publish it.
So with
So
this
it's at
one,
least-
with this tool, you can easily directly, you could even do it on your laptop. But yeah, here there is, if you click here, it will send you to this. You copy this is a private key example. And it will sign it with this private key. So you have like really a feeling of, okay, oh, it works. And you can, and yeah, so it will replace the names with the sub, with the thing that was generated. And then that's it. And the pub info is then automatically filled in with all the info. This is why usually you don't, apart, yeah, for the example Nanopub, usually don't provide anything. Provenance, you need to provide it yourself.
in 1 week, I still use that URL and it will resolve.
Of
Yeah.
the Nanopub, yes.
I mean, here, no, because I did not publish it. You could actually with this tool, but I would not recommend to use this tool really to publish Nanopub. It's more for really experimentation. Especially good if you need your like developer to experiment how to build the Nanopub, and then he can take a template and then do some things with variables, and he is able to easily build one and don't lose too much time with testing. It also can be used for, yeah, if you authenticate with OrcID here, it will generate you a normally valid. I think I fixed all the problem, but there was some time because with the format, especially the format of RSA key, I discovered there is so many different formats for encryption keys. It's a nightmare. A guy came to me and he was like, oh, it doesn't work with the key that I generated with OpenSSH. I thought OpenSSH was the standard. No, OpenSSH is the only non-standard. It's the most non-standard thing in the whole of encryption. I was like, what? So I was like, okay, you need either to pass those parameters to OpenSSH to generate the right one, or then to run something to correct. There was something like this. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but so this network with the kind of previous generation services has been now around for like 12 years or more, I think, 13, 14 years. And yeah, all these applications, everything has every publisher still available. So this is, as long as the network survives, these
I can try
networks
to.
will survive.
I can try to publish to the test server this one. Let's try.
New test server, but the old one.
Yes. So
And
in
it's still the old one that will also discontinue soon. But
this one is the old one.
yes, so that's not the registry. That's still this one.
Did,
But it probably is, it should still forward everything to the other one. Can you open one of the registries? Do not this test server now. The test server.
yeah, and maybe also it's just a question of renaming in the, because here I do a replace, you know, because when you send me back, even if I publish to the test server, I need to do a small replace with the start of the URL. Because here, if you look here, there is no test server, you know.
Yeah.
What's important is just you just remove this part and you put this part with the test server to redirect.
Like a year and a half ago is that when you publish, when you do post, you actually get back a tiny snippet of JSON which tells you, among other two things. And the one thing is this is now the URL that's available. Then
Okay.
you wouldn't have to do any of this replacement.
Ah, that would be nice, yeah. With the new,
Actually,
Yeah.
also the test we have there.
we'll probably check this.
People in there. And there's
Okay,
now
cool.
this other way, there's not a registry yet, so that,
Mhm.
but the code is the same thing, actually. It's just the new URL, and then the query is a little bit different.
Yeah, because I made the change in really the core code, but
Yeah.
this demo playground, I'm not sure I did everything properly. I will check a bit later in the conference.
But this one is still maintained, it's just a collaborative, this one is still.
Yeah,
can
yeah.
still have-
This one, like the
And this was using RDA, Nanopub RS.
exactly, yeah, the compiled version to JavaScript. I recently updated also the user
You should update these URLs then, so I can show you. It's just about the public, so.
yeah. When you come here now, look, you have like depending on if you want to do Python or rest of up, you just need to click here, and it's exactly the same documentation, but for the different language. It shows you this way you can really compare the APIs in a different language.
Yeah, we need such documentation also with Java library.
Check. And
This part,
Yes.
we,
What we most is. Anyway, there also.
Kind of,
simple, so, or. I mean, that they have multiple graphs, not so much. So what you can do in the quiz I showed you before, you can directly point to the different graphs. So yeah, if you go to just one query slash that one, like, yeah.
this one, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, so, now the part that's here, the part that's commented out, if you move a little bit down inside the query.
yeah, you need.
Oh yeah, inside.
Yeah. So you see here, has MP has assertion, and then down here you can make graph question mark A, or you can do the same with provenance. And then it makes it easy in the sense that you can easily find out what are the triples in this assertion. Right?
Yeah.
It's just the graph ID and then giving all the
Mhm.
so that's easy. So then you have all these, all the triples are in the graph, and except for the admin graph, they're all small. So you can easily kind of look through the graphs and find out what's in there.
The only thing you need to also add this small this filter to check it has not been retracted or something, but usually oh
Depends what
Yeah.
you want to do, right? It can also
Yeah,
be that you might want to have like the whole version history of an app application, then you exactly want to include the older application. But if you want to look at just what is not hasn't been validated, then that's good.
yeah.
Any more questions?
I think I've covered it with this slide.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Then why don't we conclude it here? Oh, one thing, Anne, if you're still here, is Anne still here? Ah, okay, that's fine. I just saw she hasn't declared yet that she participated. we'll note it. So we have some. Yes, absolutely. Good. Let me just show for the conclusion. No, not this one. No, wrong. Yeah. So we can do more on this if we like. So that's how to keep touch. Also, Nanopub mailing list, and we're also or applications also Mastodon. So follow us there if you like. And thank you. It was great having you. And yeah, we'll always interested in doing more Nanopub projects. Thanks. And like that, we will stop the recording.